All right. Welcome to Noodling with Megaliths. I'm not gonna. I hope y'all can hear me. I'm trying to share a screen on another computer, and can you hear me or no? Let's see. How about if I turn me up a little bit? Can you hear me better now? Let's see. All right, I think that's better. So, uh, I'll try to keep up with chat, but it like you see my chat box right here. This chat box right here. If you don't see this up, I'm not seeing you type. This is the only way I can see you type, and I can't have this up while I'm showing you this other stuff. So y'all can just watch me noodle. I'm gonna talk while I noodle, probably, but I'm just saying that you won't see this. This is the only way I can see y'all. I can see y'all on another screen, but it's so small I can't read it. So this is the only way I can read your shit, and I can only read it if I got this little window up right here. So what am I doing? I'm sharing a damn desktop screen with OBS on another damn computer, and it was kind of difficult to set up. But the thing is I don't have Adobe Creative Suite on the broadcast computer. I only have it on this one that I'm working on. So I can only work, I can only show y'all me working either on camera or doing it like this right here. And this is the first time I've tried this. We'll see how it works. Make sure, see if it don't glitch out or whatever. I'm using Google's desktop sharing app on Chrome. Had to install it on both computers. And I believe it's working right over the network. Maybe. Hopefully. So, what we're going to do today is we're just going to go over... Oh, dang, snow's gone there already. It's snowing here now. I could set up my camera out there and y'all could watch it start snowing here. Actually, I think I'll do that. Hold on a second. Alright. And now you can see what kind of snow we're getting here. Ain't much. It's just starting to come down. So we'll see. Oh shit, hold on. I'll be right back before I get started. I'm almost here. I'm almost done. Okay, I'm back. And let's see if everything's working properly. There we go. Alright, y'all can see this. Good. Now, start off kind of the same way. But I think this is actually, I see so many people actually get hung up on this, and they really can't believe it's that fucking simple. They just have to believe it's something else, and I'm here to assure you it's not. I want to take one of these stones out of the wall. We can take many stones out, but I'm just going to take one out. We'll pick one that's kind of squared, make it easier to work with, but yet polygonal. How about this one right here? What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some of this guy out right here. Alright, bring him down here. Oh crap, I didn't mean to do that. This thing is a little laggy doing the screen share shit. Let me get this down here and make some more room. Make sure y'all can still see this right here. Okay. Now I can go ahead and turn this rock right here into a, let me go ahead and clean it up, just this one little pore right here. And you hear a lot about the sopping stone and stuff like that, and it's not softened, it's just not cured yet. So let's take this one little block. Oop. That one right there. Alright, now let's turn this into more of a 3D dimensional object. Okay, because this is all you see right here. Alright. So let me go ahead and do a freeform tool. And this is just going to be a... Oh, crap. Why aren't you letting me do that? Give me freeform tool. What's wrong with you? Are you shitting me? Come on. Give me a freeform tool. You son of a bitch. Alright. We'll just do it. We'll just do it manually. Alright. So I'm just gonna draw this block out. Okay. I'm also gonna make a couple of little squares like this. I'm gonna pull that out there. Now we can go ahead and send this block back, and that's pretty much all we need. Now, when they made this block, the first thing they did was they made a pore that looked like this. More or less. Now I want to consolidate these guys. Flatten selection. Okay, I want to consolidate this guy here. So, come on, pick me up. It's just a little laggy. Let's see, maybe I help zoom in a little bit. see what y'all can see there. Come over here like that. Y'all can see better like that. Alright. So this guy right here, that's the first thing that they poured. Like a 2x4. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this wider so it looks like you're looking at it from the top. Let's just say you were looking at it standing over it. Okay. Then this thing had holes. It was poured around holes like this right here on each end. Okay. Let's consolidate all that. Alright. Now, let's go ahead and build our form for this right here. And we'll just go ahead and use something about the same size. So we need two sides of it. And give me another one. Alright, there we go. It's hard to grab these lines. Oh shit, I didn't want that many. And I'll make it a little smaller to give it more of a 3D design. Alright, now we're going to shove this guy right through the bottom here. Like this. Do it like that. Let me move it all over a little bit so it get more centered on my screen. Alright, now I'm going to consolidate all this so I can work with it better. Alright. Oop, no, I didn't want to consolidate that yet. I want another one of these. And he's going over here. And he's going to be smaller. Let's see, let's do this like this. Oh my God, Jeff, come on, stop. Now I'm also going to erase some of that guy because I don't need him in there. Okay, and I'm also going to erase just a little hair of this guy right here, because this is what you would actually see sticking out on either side of the form, like that. Okay. Now they would build that form and then they would use some little things that look like this. And they would go right here. Right here. And over on the other side as well. but you shouldn't be able to see them on the other side. I can draw the tips hanging out, but this side is going to look just like this side over here. Okay. Now, remember, when they start building with corner blocks and center blocks, and that's what they use those blocks to, like, if it was this block and that was their starter block on a wall, like let's just say this is the very second row, and you're very rarely going to see the first row. You hardly ever will you ever see these little nobule things sticking off on a first level block. It's always on second level blocks, because on a first level block, let's just say this was a first level block, they wouldn't need this system right here, because they can just drive stakes down in the ground right beside their form like this. They could just drive stakes down in the ground next to their whatever they were using as plywood or their form material, which would probably be something like sawn wood or split wood. Okay. So anyway, these guys right here, let's go ahead and copy him and work with him a little bit more. Now, when you poured these guys right here out of the same material that you're pouring these, but you're pouring them a lot earlier. They're actually going to be dried on the ground, and they probably might even use sticks and stuff, or no telling what they would find if they really got into this right here, what they'd find towards the center of the rock. I would imagine they might even have laid a stick or something in there, or I don't know, maybe even dribble and they probably did this on the ground. They probably had one imprint rock, and they'd imprint it on some wet sand, and then they'd pour that fucking shit into that form, let it dry, and that became their form tie. Now, when they went ahead and poured the material in this form, after a couple of hours or a couple of minutes or a couple of days, depending on how quick this shit set up, they would take these guys off, and on these, they'd smack them with other rocks, and this would come off, leaving what you see behind is a smacked off rock of the same type of rock. Does everybody understand that? Well, the stamping would be just where they did a relief on the inside of the form and poured on the inside of the, and they could have used anything. Now, there's no telling what kind of shit they used to do, I'm thinking that here's the common problem a lot of people have is where do they get all this fucking granite material that's crushed up? Well, it's a part of the damn piles of fucking debris from mining. When a strip mine gets done with the land, it just leaves big piles of powdered rock. And people can transport powder, or bucketfuls, or cartfuls. And you can do a lot with it. Now, if you think about the Nile and the Egypt and all the other pyramids that we see, what we always see with pyramids is, there you go. Let me I don't know if I can draw a triangle really good or not. Let me move some stuff around. Hold on. Tell you what, let me we always saw, or we always have been told by people who were actually looking at pyramids, oh my god, I didn't mean to do that. We were always told that the Nile ran around the pyramids. This was their source of water for their mortar. It's kind of a desert, which would mean that it was an old strip mine. They say that they transported the rocks that were cut for the pyramids long ways and stuff like that. Well, they might have transported buckets full of dirt. They didn't transport no rocks. They didn't have to. It was much easier to transport buckets full of a mortar type substance. Well, we already know that the mortar that they were using is like 1,000 times strong. It might as well be rock in its current form. It is rock. We don't know what they used as a medium. It wasn't Portland cement, that's for sure. They'd say, well, no. They transported all these things on boats up these rivers. No, the rivers were for the agriculture and for poor and stuff, man, because it was nothing but crops around there, too. Yeah, but Jeff, what about all those people? Yeah, what about all those people? How do you think they ate? What do you think they ate? They mummified everything that was walking and crawling. They had to eat something, unless they were cannibals or something. What do you think they were eating? Coconuts? No, they was eating everything that you eat today, plus a whole lot more. Oh, let me see what chat's saying out there. All of these things could have been made out of stone. These guys right here. Oop, shit. I didn't mean to do that. These things right here, these little triangles that would go down in these forms like that to cinch everything close up, keep it tight. And then on the top, let me get rid of that. On the top of these forms right here on the top, they probably just had another stone that was or another couple of stones that were shaped already pretty much, and they would have used stone. God damn it, Jeff, what are you doing? They would have used other stones that looked like this. Look like that right there. Ah, damn it. Okay, so that would be the top part that they could just lay across there for them once they got the bottom. And of course they wouldn't have used wood or anything else. They'd have used the same material they were making because they didn't have steel. And even the steel would have been, if you were out there doing it, would you go into a second manufacturing business trying to put some steel together? You wouldn't need steel. All you need is the damn the powder that you're working with to use to pour. You don't need steel. You can build shit a whole lot stronger than you can build with steel. That'll last a whole lot longer. You could have put, you know, they probably had metal and copper and shit. They didn't need to do that. That would have been an extra process in this whole pouring process. It would have been a, you know, extra, you know, little thing that you had to do that wouldn't have done any better in the long run. The only thing they needed it for was to hold the form together. Once they got above, you know, 3 or 4 feet. I mean, we use plywood today, and you know, we form up walls, you know, between 2 and 10 feet at a time. And these guys right here are just pouring rocks. Now they pour them in a polygonal fashion like this because they end up being a whole lot stronger. And how do they make these curves right here? Well, when they pop that mold apart, when they pop this freaking whole assembly apart, it's still pliable. And they can take even moderately sharp tools and cut right through it like butter and shape it while it's still curing. And it'll sag. A lot of times it'll fucking sag. You can tell like places where their form busted apart or they took it apart too early. Generally the bottom rows are going to be the most straight and square because they, you know, they can put a form in the ground and stake it down into the ground. But these right here, like this rock right here and this rock right here might have been poured near about, I might even think at the same time. You can tell where they have a valley like this. I don't know if y'all can see my where they got a, I don't know if y'all can see what I'm doing pointing at or not. Let me do something here. Let me give me a red thing here, and let me get a red thing here. Let me get a nothing thing here. Alright, so if you look at this valley right here, what in the hell is that? Yeah, y'all see that? That valley? So they would have poured this rock and this rock first. And then they would have poured these two. Just like they would have poured this one and this one first. This was a third pour right here. This was the 4th pour, 5th pour, 6th pour. You can look at it and tell in what order they would have even have put it in there. If you look at this shit long enough, you can figure it out. So, like if that would have been the cornerstone, they would have gotten that one first. And then they could have formed this one up right here. All the big rocks they're going to pour by themselves with nothing else around them, because they can stake it up a lot better in the ground. So that's why you'll find like big ones like this, like one and then another one over here and then another one over here. You know, they'll like skip them apart because they actually create the next pour form for that side and for this side right here and that side right there to pour little rocks like that. And that rock didn't even need a form. They packed that in there into a basic form. They didn't even need, and because it was sitting beside two big ones, they didn't need to give it, and they had the whole bottom staked off anyway. But when they got to here, they poured this corner form right here, and then they would pour that one second. Then they would pour this one third, and they would have already scooped this part out right here and this part out right here when they popped the form off the bottom, or when they were working from the top. Once it started solidify, they could have gone in there and scooped that form out. And then this would have been easy to finish at this fucking level right here. You understand? And because this one doesn't have stakes in it, it tells me that their form went up this high right here. Their form was actually that high on their first level. You understand? This was the height of their form right here on their first level. So they could catch the bottom of this rock right here with their current form, but they couldn't catch it here. You understand? And this lower form would have been probably, it could have been anything, the lower form that they did, and then they staked that into the ground like that. They stopped it. Then once it gets up, as they go up and they work their way up the wall, and you'll see they always do a wall crawl. It's like, if you think of how scaffolding goes together and how you would be building up your work area, you know, because it's not about the weight of the wall, it is about the buckets that people are carrying full of shit. They might even have been mixing their shit up in the form itself. That would almost be my guess. Or they were hauling, man, they had a good train of people hauling, because for one pour you would need, like, for one of these big rocks, you would need, just for this rock right here, if you were to pour that rock with 5-gallon buckets full of shit, it'd probably take 50 5-gallon buckets full of that mortar right there to fill up that damn form for that one rock right there. So that's a whole lot of mixing. It could have been you had like teams of mixers and teams of runners. Like I used to work with some brick masons. One of my first jobs I worked was with a brick mason, and I'm telling you what, that was the hardest job I ever had in my life. All I heard all day long was block, mud, and it was my job to bring them block and mud. And I would shovel, I could even toss them their mortar up to their pans. If they weren't too high, I could shovel it up to them out of my wheelbarrow. I wouldn't have to carry it up in buckets. But then, you know, when they got high enough, you would have to, you know, transfer it to them in buckets, 5-gallon buckets on ropes on the side of the scaffold. You'd fill up a 5-gallon bucket, and they'd haul them up and haul them up and haul them up and haul them up till they filled up their pan, and they could continue bricking a wall. Or, you know, using tines to pick bricks up and carry them bricks, you know, half a dozen at a time, or blocks, cinder blocks. At any rate, you do a lot of foundation work when you work with block and mud or block and brick, and you do a lot of form work. And the easiest thing to spot is a damn concrete fucking pour, I think, to me. Ever since I started looking at these megaliths, I've thought that from the day one that I looked at them. I was like, what in the fuck are they talking about? Those are lift points or whatever. How in the hell do they think that this shit was fucking cut? It wasn't cut. The simplest thing is the easiest thing, exactly what you would have done. You would have poured the son of a bitch. You know, to think that they didn't have, if you're looking at what you're looking at, and to think that they weren't pouring it, you just got to be the biggest dummy in the world. You never worked around any sort of concrete. You don't know how. And that's the thing is, I've told a lot of people this, and it's like they just move right around it like it's fucking This is how they fucking built this shit. All of it was poured. And so many people have gotten hung up and walked away on, well, it was just a magical mystery of how they cut them rocks. No, it's not a magical mystery on how they cut them rocks. Because they didn't cut them. They did not cut them. They poured all of it. Do you think that like the White House, do you think the White House and our congressional buildings and stuff like that up in Washington, do you think that's all stone? They build ships that cross the ocean out of concrete. There's companies that build ships and barges that cross the ocean with large amounts of shit in them, and they're made out of concrete. So, yeah, well, I mean, do you got to pour it all at one time? No, no, they didn't pour it all at one time. They poured one rock one day, one rock the next day, one rock the next day, or whatever. I mean, I can't exactly say, you know, the time frame that it took them to pour these, because I have no idea what the cure time on a blob that size right there. I have no idea what the cure time on it would have been. It could have been hours for all I know. For all anybody knows, it could have been hours. Because modern concrete, man, you pour it, you can be standing on it, finishing it in a matter of hours, man. A 24-inch pad or a 36-inch pad or a 4-foot pad. I used to pour pads that were 40 feet by 40 feet by 4 feet deep. That was our standard big pad when I worked for Clancy and Thays. That was our standard big job site pad. And we'd always pour that pad for the fucking crane that would go in. And it was always a crane that would go up like 10 stories high. And the first thing that we'd pour would be a big pad for the crane to sit on. And it could be anywhere from 4 feet deep to 10 feet deep. And it would be full of metal and bolts and everything else sticking out of it when we got done with it. And then we'd move on to pouring the rest of the pads for the rest of the job. But the first thing we'd pour would be the biggest pad, deepest pad, which would be for the crane. Now this rock right here, I could pour this rock out of concrete. If I had a little concrete mixer from Home Depot or fucking Harbor Freight, I could pour that rock just like it is and make it out of concrete. If I already had my little sticks made up that you see down here, these little sticks, if I already had them made up, I could make a rock that looked just like that. Just like that. Out of concrete in my backyard, and it would take me, I don't know, a couple of hours to mix up the cement and shovel fucking the cement and the damn sand into a mixer. And it'd only take me just a couple of, maybe an hour or so to build up the form and make it look cool and make it look like a nice polygonal kind of looking thing. And it'd take me another 30-45 minutes to mix up the mortar and pack it all in there and vibrate it down and beat it down. And I could do that rock in a half a day just by myself. Now think of a time when maybe they had mixers that they had on some sort of turnstile or something. I mean, they might have been raking their shit up. Like a lot of people who work with cement, they'll rake it, they'll mix rake it in their trough. That's what I used to do with a hoe. Just take a hoe with two big round holes in the end of it, like you see at the Home Depot, and that's a mud hoe. That's to mix up concrete with. And yeah, one rock like that, if you had to mix it up by hand with one mixer hoe in a damn trough, shit, you'd be tired as fuck in a couple hours, but you could still do it. And you see how that wears away like concrete. Look at it, how it had a When it was new and freshly poured, it was nice and smooth, and as the top layer wore off of it, it started pitting like a sidewalk. Let's see what Rob's got going on with the. Let's see what the link is. Oh, shit. Come on. Definitely poured right here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. See how that top skim coat, because when they poured it in there and they were kind of beating it up, all the more liquid stuff goes to the outside and gets pressed out by all the other rocks and crap that you got that you're using for a base, whether it be sand or something harder than sand. But all that right there was carved out while it was still wet. They could have rubbed it down with a finished coat. At the very end, they could have been rubbing that son of a bitch down with rags with water. All of that's poured. Yep. Hey, how many people? Can anybody tell me how many of us are here? Is it just us 3 or 4? Okay, it's just us. It's just us 3. All right. And, oh, it's just us 4. Oh, well, Joey wanted me to go through St. Petersburg tonight, so we're gonna go through St. Petersburg. Oh. We're gonna go through statues and other shit, and we're gonna go through some flooding stuff about St. Petersburg and shit too. It seems as I'm not the only one that's interested in this shit anymore, so I'm glad. One thing we have found is that, in our lifetime, I'm 50 something, but in my lifetime I've seen people go from ignoring archaeology to talking about archaeology and shit that they didn't even have to dig up, that wasn't buried. And just listening to all the explanations and everybody's mystical interpretations of all this stuff it's just, I think it's exactly what the original stories say. They would have had no reason to make up the first one. Well, and if they did make it up, it was for a control thing or whatever. But I don't know. I know that they have tried to hide everything, it seems like. And every time, you call them on it and say, hey, what about this and what about that? And it's always just, well, that's a fake. That's a fake. Well, we can't just say it's fake news. You can't just say this can't be right. You gotta come up with a more plausible idea. You gotta come up with a more plausible way to do it. And they just had more technique back then than they got today. They just had more technique. Just like today, you might have a guy still that knows how to do plaster work. He knows how to make a mud pie on his plaster freaking trowel that looks like a something that you'd put a pizza on with a stick off the bottom of it, and then have another trowel, and you mixing like a pizza pie up out of plaster, and laying that shit on a wall just as flat as it can be, without no stick, without nothing to measure it with. Now that's what somebody with plaster could do today, but somebody a long time ago with the same sort of plaster, well, and they had so nice a technique, they could actually create reliefs for concrete to be poured on top of that relief. Or they could have done small statues, but plaster would have been easily and readily available. Plaster that was around a long time ago as well. It was not something they just invented. It's always crazy, isn't it? It's always crazy what they say. So anyway, there's your form right there. If you don't believe me, go back in time and look for yourself. That's exactly how the fuck they built it. And a couple of guys could have fucking built a wall just like this right here, and they could have knocked that wall out in a couple of weeks, man. I mean, two guys with the right materials laying around and fucking running water, they could have fucking built that wall right there. No big deal. I could take any one of you out there and build this damn wall and show you exactly how to build it and do it exactly the same way, but do it out of concrete, because that's the only thing I have at my disposal to build it. Now, I could do this in a smaller scale with plaster. I could go get a big bag of plaster. I've worked with plaster enough to where I could do the little forms and stuff and make little. The only thing is, plaster will snap to make these little legs here, these little legs right here. If I made them out of plaster, they'd probably snap as soon as I started driving a wedge down in the hole that I'd left. So, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, I could make this whole form out of damn plaster. Not the sides. The sides I would use, something like wood. You think about the materials they had back then. The hell, they could have had fucking stones that were nice and flat. They could have already had stones that they had chiseled out and notched out and stuff like that, and or other pours. They could have used. When you get started on a project like this, you're going to make other pours that are not these fucking rocks. There are going to be all sorts of pours that are not these rocks. It's like these little sticks right here. Those were pours. Each one of them was a pour. Whether they just had a little thing that they indented the sand with, or indented dirt, or they indented clay and then poured inside the clay and then broke the clay off around it and knocked it out of the, where the little holes were on the stick, at the end of the stick. But you could still do that out of concrete. You could do that out of regular mortar, and it'd be pretty strong. It'd be strong enough to hold it in a position like that, because the weight is being carried by the wall below. The only thing you're doing is you're just keeping them corners from busting out. So they could have poured one block, that block. They could have poured. They could have poured that block, that block, that block, than that block. Because they would have used the form straight across here. They would have used the form. All these would have been in the same form. They would have been on the same side form right there. And it's just a matter of, like, and stuff like this right here. How they angled that and then scooped that out. They could have done that while it was still setting up before they ever poured this block. Any questions? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was. It was just granite plaster. I mean, you think of the mining that was going on, and they probably were chewing up shit. You think of where they say, where did deserts come from? Stuff like that. Yeah. Where did the deserts come from? So, you know, where are all these slag piles from? All the mining that they did. Well, they were mining everything that we mine today. Everything that we mine today, they were mining then. And there is no telling if the elements are still there to even make this kind of mortar. It could be something really fucking simple that nobody remembers and nobody had any record of, that nobody's got holding a secret or nothing. They just don't remember what, you know, like, all right, what's Portland cement? That's the only thing that you got now that you can use to make concrete. Portland cement. Now they mix all kinds of things up in Portland cement, from fiberglass to rocks to sand. Hey, that's all I wanted. That's all I was going to do today. I wasn't going to do nothing else. Well, I mean, I was going to go. I was going to do. We're going to do St. Petersburg later. So I'll probably start that about 8 o'clock. Yeah, that's what we're going to do, Joy. Just the quality. We're just going to go through some quality work. Quality work. Is it snowing? Can anybody see my camera outside? Is it snowing? You got a foot of snow. Damn. That's a lot of snow. Alright, well, I'm going to sit back and see if anybody's posted anything worth watching. I'll see y'all later tonight. I got laundry and stuff to do. Anyway, see ya.